Sunday morning, it's 11 o'clock. Welcome to Breakfast with the Boys. Thank you on a Thanksgiving Sunday here in Canada for joining us good and early. With me, as always, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. With me, I have Shawn Slaght and Moose Jaw. How are you, Shawn?
Doing pretty good. Thanks, Gary.
And I have Muffler Mike Kostiuk over in Connecticut. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Boy, you guys look bright and bushy-tailed.
Hey, it's bright and early over here. So
it is really early. It's still dark over where Shawn is.
Yeah.
You know, even the roosters are going, shh, keep it down. Down. Get another hour. Oh, man. We got a great show for you. Rich Kilgour is going to be with us. He's just getting a few things done, and he'll be right with us. And we're going to talk about his career, both playing and coaching, with the Six Nation Chiefs, and now with back-to-back Man Cup wins and all kinds of fun stuff like that. We've got some stuff from Kuffel, of course, and we also have some movement in the NLL. A couple of interesting things over the week. But just before we get rolling, just a reminder to everybody that all of our shows are on Facebook. They are on Twitter. They are on YouTube and also Twitch. And you can remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share. If you missed a show, no worries. You can catch us on YouTube at All Lacrosse All the Time. And there you will find retro games, interviews, library of shows, everything. You got fights, you've got press conferences, more and more all the time. And you can stay up to date right to the moment by hitting onto our Facebook page, and everything comes there, and Instagram as well. That's about it, guys. So abbreviated now, isn't it? Just got right to the face. Well, it has been an interesting week. There's been some different things going on in the NLL, some cuts, some movements. We're only a couple of weeks away from training camp. Has everybody got the NLL fever yet? Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Getting the itch now. Hey.
Awesome. Shawn, you got it too, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I tell you guys, it's just, it's like kids at Christmas, NLL coming on. Well, Rich looks like he's got his stuff together, and without further ado, I'm going to bring Rich Kilgour onto the show. Rich!
Hey, guys, how you doing?
How's it going?
Not bad, not bad.
Thank you very much for joining us on Sunday morning.
Oh, yeah, no
Thanksgiving
problem.
Here in Canada, so it's close enough over where you are.
Yeah.
Fire a bird on the Barbie and away we go.
Yeah.
I want to start off by saying congratulations on the Man Cup, because that was just an absolute, it's poetry in motion watching you guys play.
Yeah, no, it was quite a summer. I mean, with all that talent, and, the one thing about it, you can have all that talent, but, if they're a little bit selfish or anything like that, it don't work. So I give all the credit to the players. They bought in. Some guys had to maybe take a little step back from what they normally do for teams, but everyone bought in. Dane Smith running out the back door for most of the season, stuff like that. So that's what makes a championship team, and the boys punched in every single night and, came away with the Man Cup. It was quite a summer.
That's something that Doddridge brought up last week also is running lines. You guys ran lines as opposed to just O guys going out, just D guys going out. Guys did their job, and more so. Yes, and we had some guys, that are really athletic, like Lyle Thompson, Brian Cole, Dane Smith. So, we'd have those guys, and JT would call them three amigos. Even if they were D guys, he would have them, all right, you three are going to go up and play a shift of offense. So, those guys are so talented. You want to get the most out of all their talents. And some of those guys that can go two ways, we always figure it's just a lot easier to score 3-on-2, 2-on-1 than, setting up 5-on-5. So
you got some great athletes, man. Let them play.
Absolutely, and funny enough, also one of the guys who are probably the most underrated guy on a team of that talent would be a Tyson Bell, probably the quickest guy in the league.
Oh, he is such a great defenseman and a loose ball guy, and just he plays with that little bit of edge on him too. Sometimes it gets him in a little trouble, but I'll take that edge any day of the week. So, and he, like you said, he gets that ball sometimes in the corner, and he outraces like 3-4 guys that were ahead of him heading back, and he just runs right by him. He's quite an athlete.
Absolutely, and there's a number of games that I caught where he was just lights out down the floor. I think the one in Coburg is the one that got my attention, sitting in the ice box, and I think he had 2 or 3 breakaways and goals in that game. It's just it's running track for him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and especially if he gets that loose ball out, near the blue line or somewhere up there, and it's truly a foot race. He's going to win that 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and he's creative. He's got good hands. For a guy who's the meat and toughness of a team, he really has soft hands and good imagination. Because I would say 80% of the time on those, he'll put it in.
Yeah, that's another one. Just he's a great athlete. Let him run, pick up the ball, and go. And like you said, he does. He has a great shot, and again, his loose balls is what gets him into those situations. Like he'll beat a guy there, or even if it goes in second, sometimes a poke or a jab here, and then off and running. There he goes.
Right. Now, a couple of things about Six Nations that really went, I don't know if it really went under the radar, but it didn't really get talked about because of the team being so great as a whole. We keep hearing about Victoria and they're 18-0. Six Nations went 11-0 in the regular season. That's impressive. Because there's a lot of talent in the MSL.
Yeah, 18 is a little more than 11, but at the same time, that was quite impressive, that for them to go 18-0. And like you said, I think that was the first time I've ever been part of an undefeated senior team. We've had a couple I was on one, the second Brampton team. I think we were 19-1. That was the closest I came. And, that's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot of good lacrosse players and, a lot of good teams you have to beat to get to there. And, it's pretty crazy that they did that. And then, we get through Coburg 4 in a row, and then we lose the first, 2 games to Peterborough. So, and you got to be honest, I was kind of glad that happened. We needed a wake up call. When you go on those long streaks, you end up getting away with some bad habits for a while. You know what I mean? Like you just think you're going to turn it on when you need to. And Peterborough, gave us a good smack there and woke us up.
The thing is also, when you guys actually did wake up in game 3, it wasn't an 8-7 score. It was 12-3, and it was the hammer went down going, we're back. And we're back from there on.
Yeah, and like I said, when those guys come out and play with some real intensity, and we get a couple breaks and stuff too. Some of the times you can play really good, and the scoreboard it doesn't show it. But we played a really complete game that night. Defense was spot on. You know what I mean? All the special teams were great, and the offense, put up 12. So
yeah,
when they only had to put up 4, so it was quite a dominant game, that game 3.
Absolutely. And again, the same thing happened in the Man Cup. You guys dropped the first game, but talking with all you guys after the game, there wasn't one guy that was concerned or bothered. The one thing that I kept hearing was, well, we see what they got. And if that's it, well, hammer down. And sure enough, there it was. They'd come out quick in the games, and then just the absolute staying power of the Chiefs is what wore them down. And by midway through the game, the game would change every single night.
Yeah, they would come out and get on us early. I think we were down like 4-2 almost every single game. So, and then our guys are just like the tide, man. They just keep coming and coming and coming, and then sooner or later, man, something's got to give. And they have that trust that, all right, we're not playing our best right now, but we're just going to keep leaning on them and making plays, and sooner or later it's going to start showing on the scoreboard.
Right, and it's next man up. One night it's Lyle scoring 5 or 6. Next night it's Sliger scoring 3 or 4. Next one is Brian Cole getting 4 goals or 3 goals. Everybody chipped in with 2 or 3 here, 1 there, 4 here, 2 there, and it was just a continuous barrage.
Yeah, and that's what as a coach or as a team, that's what you want. They can't just focus on 1 or 2 guys. I mean, you gotta. You didn't even mention that Dane was going out the old door at that point. Randy Stotts, again, Longboat, he had really great series. And like you said, it's as a defense, that's really hard when, you say, oh, all right, who are we going to make shoot? And you look around, it's like, man, I don't know. I don't want to let any of those guys shoot. So yeah, it's a good offense. They share the ball, and they're very tough to stop when they get going.
Absolutely. And again, nobody even brought it up, really, is that you didn't have your leading scorer from the year. Austin had his own problem. Austin Stotts couldn't play. So, that's a lot of goals that's not in the lineup on top of everything.
Yeah, and no, that was a big loss, and I hope everything's going well with him. But it also, that frees up about 20 shots, so the other guys get to take about, a bunch more shots. So, and again, Austin was our leading scorer. The kid is just incredible. And again, I just wish him the best, and hope he gets everything straightened out.
Right. How good was it to have Steve Priolo, on the back end there? My God, just an absolute rock at Gibraltar, but can also go coast to coast if you need him to.
Oh, I've loved him since he came in Buffalo when his rookie year was my first year, or I missed him 1 year because I didn't do anything with the Bandits. Then when I came back, I was D coach. So I've known Steve since he was 20 years old. Coached him all those years with the Bandits, and he's just one of my favorite players of all time. And like you said, he can go coast to coast. He can throw it off, chuck the knuckles, and he is a really complete, lacrosse player. And it's kind of funny because, I remember when he was 19, we took a chance on him with the Bandits, and, he still wasn't really there yet. He was just a kid. And then, our fans were kind of rough on him, but look at him now. I mean, captain of the Canada team. And, another funny one, I remember we were in Coburg, and him and Rubish were out there together, and they ended up double teaming someone. And I just under my breath said, that's got to be a lefty's top 3 nightmares of all time. Rubish and Priolo running at you.
Yeah.
And Cody Jamieson turned around and said, "You're absolutely right."
Absolutely. That's funny. It's funny. One of the guys that Priolo reminds me of now was you when you were playing.
Oh, a little bit. I mean,
by example, if you had to throw him down, you did. If you had to score a goal, that's what you did. If you had to go and run the floor, that's what you did. If you stay at home, that's what you did. You led by example. It wasn't one of a lot of words, but the ones that come out were the ones that mattered.
Yeah, and that was one of my I guess strengths. Looking back on it, captain for the Bandits for 12 years, and was usually had an A or something on my shirt. And I think the guys really respected me, like you said, because I would do all that stuff. I'd fight for a teammate. You want me to go play defense? I'll go play. I'll do anything the team wants me to do. And, just point me in a direction, and then, I'm going to give 100%. And, I think the guys respect that, and believe me, every guy that I, had a chance to play with, every teammate, I'm not kidding, I really have some respect for them too. So it was a two-way street, and it was just, to see Steve too, like I said, come along at 19 and, start off a little slow, and then, come along. And then he's captain of the Bandits for many years now. And, he had the ultimate prize, not prize, but honor of being, captain of Team Canada. So I love the guy. I could go on for another 10 minutes talking about Steve Priolo.
Absolutely. It's great, and it's just, in the Bandits are the same way, one after another, guys that can do all kinds of things. You guys can run out of the D door, O door, transition, doesn't make a difference, let alone having Matt Vince in net. With the Chiefs, though, you guys, again, we didn't talk about this, is Warren Hill did something that nobody's ever done. Get a shutout.
Yeah, that was incredible. Because, again, I played many, many years. I've never seen a shutout in senior lacrosse. Never been a part of one. Never. I can't even remember hearing about one. And, it was pretty, like when a pitcher has a no-hitter going, no one wanted to talk to him when he came to get a drink of water. And everyone was just, no one said a word about it either. But we all knew, believe me. And I mean, that's pretty, like you said, pretty incredible. And, he's a great, great goalie. And especially with a big defense we have, and you kind of just get to sit back and play some angles. And Warren's really, really quick too. So they get in on the crease, and we do break down. He can, go with a couple fakes and still get back to it. And, it was great. And, JT's done a great job with him and Dougie. They've alternated every other game for 2 years.
Yeah.
And
both of them are pinpoint passing down the floor, and they're just that much towards the offensive thing too, not just stopping balls.
Yeah, and it's funny. You kind of not all native, but it's a lot of the native goalies seem they can chuck the ball pretty good. And so Dougie Jamieson used to take face-offs and field lacrosse. So he's a pretty good athlete. He's not just a big blocker back there. He's an actual pretty decent athlete. So it was great to have those two guys, and like I said, really just go every other game for 2 years straight. And again, just being a great teammate, right? They're both number ones in the winter. but they split time in the summer. So it's, again, just good guys being good teammates.
How great was it to win it at home too?
Oh, I mean, right on the res too. I think the one we won in earlier was when I played was in Brantford. So then, when I was coaching, we won one, or 2 in Six Nations, and it's just a little bit more special, just to do it at home. And like you said, it's not the home of lacrosse, but the natives invented it, and they have the native, be on the reservation. It just makes it a little more special.
Right. Well, you're going to run out of fingers, right? You and 5 as a player, and you're 3 or 4 now as a coach.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people were asking, like me and JT after, and I don't know. You do know. I know. We 3 with the Chiefs, 1 with Brampton. So 4 as a player, then 3 as a head coach, and 1 as an assistant coach. Yeah, so I think that's 8. When I start doing my thumbs.
The extra large, extra large rings. Throw that in with some of the Bandits rings, and that's going to be a heavy chain that you're wearing.
It was quite a career, man, and really got lucky. There's a lot of great players that don't have that many championships, and you know what I mean. I just got lucky to be on some really great teams. Summer and winter, and just and we had a core of 6-7 guys there that really played together through almost all those. And it was, like JT, I don't know how many seasons me and that guy spent together, but it's just, it's crazy too, because we were looking, at the little banners and stuff, and it says, our first Man Cup in Six Nations was 1994, and that was 30 years ago, and that's what Tyson Bell said. He goes, "Hey, that's the year I was born." It's like, holy cow.
Nothing like aging you a little bit.
Yeah, sure goes by quick.
It does, doesn't it? That's amazing. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Since we brought up 30 years ago, we'll go back even further. The original question that we always asked was, how did you get started in lacrosse? And I know you have a great story with it. So let's talk about that, how you guys got started.
Yeah, we grew up on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation, and there was an actual lacrosse factory on the reservation. It was called Patterson. Well, it was called Tuscany Crafts, but it was run by a guy named Wes Patterson, and he was just known all over in lacrosse circles. And anyway, that lacrosse stick factory was literally 50 yards from my house. So, as a kid, and just being native, we always had a stick. But then, like when I was younger, my dad actually worked there making the sticks, bending them and cutting them down and stuff, and my mom would string them up. So, and then about, I live in the States in Sanborn, New York, but I'm about 10 minutes from the Lewis and Queenston Bridge. And a lot of people from our res used to go over and play for Niagara on the Lake. So when I was old enough to sign up, I had my stick, and I knew my way around a little bit, and went and signed up in Niagara on the Lake and played till I was 40.
Wasn't that your first job too? Was bending sticks?
Yeah, it's hilarious. So one, let's just say they had a guy who was undependable, and one I was always down there goofing around with the lacrosse sticks, and one day this guy didn't show up, and I was like 12 or 13. He was like, "You want to make $3 an hour?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I started bending sticks, and that was my first job.
That's fantastic. Now, you played junior with St. Catharines, crossed over the border, and again, it's about half an hour from where you are anyway. So let's talk about the one special team that really comes to mind is the 1990 Minto Cup champions, because that's, again, another one of those teams that were just completely overrun with talent.
Yeah, no, that team was special. I mean, especially in junior, and all those guys from St. Catharines, I played in Niagara on the Lake. There was a Dunville team, I think Pelham, Spartans, and we played heated battles all the way growing up from 5 to 16, and then we all come together and played junior. But it seemed like every team had 1 or 2 really good guys, and then we all ended up playing junior A together. And Darius, myself, Randy Mearns, Mike Lyons, Trevor Bidell, Darren Much. I mean, I could just go on, and all these guys that have done great things in lacrosse. And we had lost to Peterborough like 3 years in a row, and Peterborough was just stomping everybody in junior when I first started. And then we finally got them, that 1990 team, and I think we won. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We were 19-1, I think, and we scored over 400 goals that year. I think our average score was like 21-7. And, like now in junior, you can't get anyone to break 13, 14. And, it's kind of embarrassing. We hit 30 one time, or no, 30 like 4 times. And we had a 41 goal game against Hamilton. So it was, and again, not rubbing it in, not being jerks about it. We just had a team that could run all day and move the ball around. And like I said, it was so sweet. And again, because junior, right? It's a time. There's a time frame there. You only have so many years to do it. So that was my last year, and I am so glad I got a minnow because that's the one I can kind of rub in other people's faces that got every other ring that I have.
Right. Yeah. Well, the telltale of that team also is how many of those guys are in the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, like
Never all of them, really.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and it's like again, just to have that group of talent come together and just be really lucky. Again, I played in Niagara on the Lake, never won anything my entire career. Was always a pretty good player, but we just didn't have the horses in Niagara on the Lake, and then to get to play with some other really really good players, it was just nice. It was such good lacrosse too, because that was 5 up, 5 back, and
right.
We had a line, and it was funny. Me, Darris, and Randy Mearns were all in the same line, and I think Darris had like 160. I had like 120, and Mearns had like 110 points. So that was just on one line. It was, and again, just looking back, because that just came up the reunion for that team a couple years ago, and it was funny. They had an old stat book and stuff, and it was like looking at the numbers. It was just it was crazy.
That's insane. Now you also had Jim Brady was your coach because you needed the conductor. Because with all that talent, sometimes the greatest talents don't win. It's to be able to get everybody to play together and get on the same page.
Yeah, no, Jim was great. Like, because I had him my first year, and he was, let's just say, a little fiery. Like, man, his face was red a lot. He had, and it's not funny, but it's probably because he was so high strung. He had a heart problem or something. Something happened. He had to take a year off. And then he came back, and he was a little bit calmer. And I think that made him a better coach. He was a good coach no matter what. But I think once he lost that little bit of, like you said, red face so much, he was and then again, he was perfect for our group because he knew we were talented. Most of the time at practice, we worked on a couple little things, power play, and then he just had us throw, not just throwing and catching, but running drills. So we were doing everything on the run.
Right.
And especially when all those guys are 19, 20 or dead in shape, it was, he was the right guy for the job. Let's put it that way.
Right. Looking back now as a coach and a very, very successful coach, how much of Jim Brady do you think rubbed off on you?
A lot. Like I said, I think he did a great job of just figuring, who was good at what, and then putting them in a position to use that skill. And really, that's all coaching is. You know what I mean? You take your guys and you try to get them all on the same page, and then put them in the best position to go, make a good play. And then it's up to the players. And the coaches do have a big impact on the game plan, and all that stuff. And it's the key is getting the players to buy in and execute. So Jim was good at that. He knew how to read his talent. He knew what to do. And that's what I try to probably incorporate a little bit of Jim in there just to, kind of read the team. You can't just say, nope, we're going to play this way every single year. Players change, and sometimes you got to change things up to make the most of your talent.
Sure. Let's jump over to MILL and the Buffalo Bandits. Now, you missed the first year. You torn your ACL, but you jumped on in. And the rest, as we say, is history. Let's talk about the early Bandits teams. And, your brother called it the Wild, Wild West in MILL. Things that would get, probably a 5-game suspension nowadays. You're lucky if it was change of possession back then. Let's just talk a little bit about the whole conference and everything there.
Yeah, because they, it started off and it was, they wanted not rough. It was fun. Lacrosse is a rough game. But then you had a lot of American field refs who didn't really know the box too well, and American players who didn't understand some of the, maybe unwritten rules. But then, it was, again, just like what Darris said, is perfect. It was a wild, wild west, man. You guys stick people, 2-hand. There was probably a fight almost every game. And it was fun, though, man. Just guys playing with passion. And, sometimes emotions boil over, and two guys got to settle it. And, like I said, I think their big slogan back in the day was, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was definitely marketed to that 18 to 35 beer drinking crowd. And they loved it. We loved it. And it was a great time to be a lacrosse player.
Interesting you said that. I happen to find something here. You're going to love this. It's an old Bandits poster for the Memorial Auditorium and the Coors Light.
Oh, yeah.
The young, let's see if I can the young JT and Randy Mearns, and
Yeah, I think there was Mike Meridian and Paul Day too. Yeah, no, that was man,
that's something
again,
for the Memorial Auditorium.
long time ago. And it's funny, just man, maybe less than a year ago, some of my buddies were out in Buffalo and they had that poster and hung up in some restaurant or something. They took pictures of it and they teased me for about 2 weeks. And that poster is pretty popular.
That's the one thing I forgot to bring up to Six Nations to next time around. I'll do it.
Yeah,
you were nice enough to sign the cards for me and things like that, the old mill cards, and that was fantastic. But I get that one signed also. JT, you, and a few other people in there, and I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and like you said, a little piece of history. You know what I mean? That was 2 years ago now, and good old Bandits and Coors Light. We had a good relationship.
Well, in this place here, it's a museum here when it comes to old programs and stat books and equipment and caps and see the jersey over the shoulder and all kinds of things, gloves, helmets, posters. So yeah. The Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame has nothing on me.
Nice.
I loved it. You're talking about with Memorial Auditorium, and that place was just an absolute zoo. It was nutty, cuckoo, crazy. Every game, you were right on top of the players. The players were easily to job back because low glass. It's not like now where everything's cookie cutter. Every rink had different characteristics and different ambiance to it. The Spectrum with the real low glass behind the bench, and things like Maple Leaf Gardens with no glass behind the bench. They didn't even have any in the penalty box until later on, which was even crazier. And then there's the Spectrum, Boston Garden, and you got to play at all these places. And again, the fans were right on top of you, and it was easy to get into an argument with 1 or 50 of them. As the beer drinking continued along through the evening.
Oh, it was so much fun, like you said, back in the day. And like you said, Philly was just the worst. Like, they are the worst fans ever. But they were fun, man. Like, and then afterwards, we'd all go to the bar and have a drink. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget, I was in the box with, I won't say the guy's name, but there's a guy who sits behind the penalty box with a hard hat on. His name is Chopper. So we're sitting in the box and Chopper's giving it to us, and I knew his routine, so it wasn't bothering me too much, but the other player didn't like it too much, and without even looking, he just kind of like swung the stick over his head, hit Chopper right in the helmet. But then for the next week, everyone said it was Rich Kilgour, and those Kilgour brothers are goons. And didn't even do nothing, and I was still getting roasted.
Of course.
Philly was a great place to play and get a lot of fun because, you know what I mean? Anytime you made a nice play there, everyone had to sit down and shut up for a second. But, other than that, they again, afterwards, they were great. You know what I mean? Boston Garden was just, man, that place was nasty. They had the biggest rat I've ever seen in my life. Looked like a big cat or something. But walking in the back of the arena, and they got that. And then we literally had to hang our clothes on nails there. Like, it was. But again, to say I played in the Boston Garden and the Spectrum, like I'm so happy I can say that because it was a special time, like you said. And the old odd. Remember the boards had a big sway to them when you hit someone, and the orange was like, man, if you fell out of the orange, you would have landed on the floor. They were stacked so steep in the old odd, and like you said, the fans were right on top of you, and it was just a great atmosphere. Like you said, I wish they could make some more arenas like that.
And loud, my God, the odd was just nuts. It was loud. They love it to this day. The Buffalo sports town loves their Bandits, and man, when the Bandits won a couple of years ago, I was up in the press box, and again, one of the most obnoxious goal horns around that I ever heard. And when they won with 19,000 people at KeyBank, I could barely hear that thing. The floor, I'm in the press box in the roof, and the floor is rumbling under my feet. A little unnerving, when you're up in the roof and the floor is rumbling because you're thinking,
yeah. Hope those screws hold. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I hope that they weren't taking a day off in the concrete fitting,
yeah. Man. That's it. And that was the old odd though I think maybe because the roof was so low or whatever and everything was on top of you. Mm-hmm. I swear the odd was louder. It just and when Dara scored that winner in whatever it was 93, I think we watched the tape a couple times, and the camera is just shaking. It was so loud in there, and it was like, again, just a great place to play. KeyBank Center is great, and it's super loud in there now too. But some just, I don't know, I'm being old and nostalgic, but something about the old Odd is just extra special.
I love it. And I say, a shameless plug for us is if you go into our YouTube page at All Lacrosse All the Time, I inherited Bill Fox's retro collection of VHS tapes, which have a ton of mill games and a lot of NLL games up to about 2010 or so, 2011. And I have converted probably 30 or 40 of those games so far. I've got about another 50 or 60 to go from that collection. But there's a lot of your games, a lot of games from the Mill League, a lot of odd games, games from Pittsburgh, games from the Spectrum, games from the Boston Gardens, a lot of Bandits games in there, a lot of your stuff. I even have Steenhouse's 17-point night against the Rock.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That was Darius from, because remember he had to retire early, started coaching. He's the same way. He has like a whole equipment bag full of VHS tapes. And it's just funny, you know what I mean? Like to think back, VHS tapes, that says how long ago it was right there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of crazy that the time just, it just goes by so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Every couple of months I put a couple more up. It takes time to get them converted and it takes money to get them converted too.
Yeah.
But, slowly but surely I'll get them all. See, now we even got the dog excited about old people.
Yeah. He'll bark at anything.
One of the things is this, like the league is striving now to have, TV and this and that. We had all this stuff. That's the thing with lacrosse is we had it. We put it away. Then we reinvented it and we brought it back and we have it again. And now we're here. We got to get moving forward. Because back then we had ESPN. We had the big arenas. We had all the, sponsors were coming on. And then it just went away. And now we're brought back ESPN and TSN here in Canada. We have the big arenas coming again. We're getting expansion again with blue chip ownership with NHL guys. Where do you see this going? Do you think we're finally up in the right zone now?
It seems a lot more closer than like when I was still playing. Because like you said, it always seemed like we were doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden 3 teams would fold or something, and it was just very inconsistent. The attendance, or not just like Buffalo was always consistent. Well, we had a couple down years there, but the consistency out in other places, you know what I mean? It's hard to do that. And you have to get a TV contract. That's where all the big bucks are really made. Like, you're not going to be able to pay the players a ton of money just through tickets. So hopefully like you said, hopefully ESPN will get some good ratings and TSN will get some good ratings. And, someday they'll be able to sign one of those, like, not NFL, but you know what I mean, going in that direction instead of kind of just still spinning their wheels. And they got to find a way to get the players full time. Could you imagine lacrosse if these guys practice 5 days a week?
Oh my God.
These guys do all this stuff with only practicing 2 hours a week. You know what I mean? It would just be great if they could be full-time lacrosse players. And I know, a lot of people appreciate it and love the Bandits and that because everyone does have a real job pretty much. And, but, if they want better lacrosse, even better lacrosse, they have to be able to go full-time.
Right. I've been saying that for years. And, they've tried all kinds of social media things, which is great for guys like us. Because I'll watch it on the washing machine if I could. I'll watch it in anything. But new people in the game and say, for just $5, if you just want to pay for good luck.
Right.
I've tried experiments where I've had it on when I'm sitting at a bar and just putting on my tablet. And before you know it, there are people looking over my shoulder and watching, what is that? And, or I've put a Chromecast on the TV in there and watch people start slowly, draws people everywhere.
Checking it out. Yeah. No, that's why I say we just got to get them in the building because most people, once they see a game, you know what I mean? They're hooked.
Right.
So, and it's like you said, it's
on
good.
The other show when he was still commissioner. And one of the things that he had brought up back then was that where the NLL is now is roughly about the NHL mid to late 70s. The TV contract had come in, but it hadn't had the explosion yet. We hadn't had the Edmonton, New York Islanders kind of boom in the early 80s. And that's basically where we're sitting right now. Do you think that now that it's back in the Olympics and we get another 280 countries to watch in one form or another, granted it's sixes and it's not box per se, but do you think that could be the the explosion.
Yeah, let's hope so. I don't like the sixes myself. You know what I mean? Pick one or the other and do it. But and man, if they could get box across, into the how they have it over in Canada in the States, because that's what I think we're lacking is some really like Rabel got all that stuff done. Like he was a big American star,
Right?
and I think that's what they kind of NLL need is some American to just tear it up and. Hopefully, like I said, get in some other arenas and stuff like that. But, I just hopefully that exposure through the Olympics, or like any kind of lacrosse anyway. So hopefully that will give it a big bump, and look at the world championships now for the box lacrosse. I can't remember how many countries were in it this year. It's just, crazy. I think the first one they did, there was only like 6. And then, I think there was I can't even guess. I think there was over 50 this time.
Well, you had 28 men and 10 women, which was unique also because first time we've ever had the women on there. And being out there and covering it, I have to tell you, I was almost more enamored with a lot of the women's games than the men. The contact, the physicality that they played with, and the intensity was just as equal to the guys.
Oh no, those girls don't mess around.
U.S. gold medal game. That was made for TV movies.
Yeah. Nope. And that's what the girls play hard, man. A lot of those girls probably grow up playing with the boys, when they were younger. I don't think there was. I don't know when the girls lacrosse, came around, but they probably grew up with the boys. So those girls are, pretty tough. And any girl that wants to play with box lacrosse is probably a pretty tough girl. So. Yeah. And like you said, that was pretty incredible what USA pulled off. And, like you said, that was storybook ending. And hopefully, like you said, that, can inspire some other girls in more countries to get going in the girls lacrosse.
Definitely. And being Canadian, of course, I want to see Canada win. But, I think for box lacrosse for women, having the USA win is probably the best thing for the game.
Yeah. And, hey, they won. They keep score and they had refs and USA beat them. And like you said, I'm sure you wanted Canada, but USA, did what they had to do. But again, just for the growth of the game, it was a good game. You know what I mean? You didn't want the gold medal game to be a 30-2, right? Something like that. So, I think it was really good for them. Like you said, hopefully they can, use that and go up another notch.
The other thing was it wasn't just Canada, the U.S. being on top and kind of putting their nose up going, yep, we're great. Every game when they played the lower teams, I remember when I'm playing Netherlands and playing Hong Kong, I would watch them after the games talk and show things and explain things and do things and have time for the other teams. And that camaraderie is what's going to bring this thing up, I think.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. I remember when I was doing the Iroquois men, you know what I mean? We would go and give talks to, some of the countries that, weren't at that level yet, but we'd go scrimmage them for a quarter or a half or something. And then, like you said, show them a couple things and try to help them out. You know what I mean? It's all about spreading the game and helping the game to get better. So if we can go help another, team or whatever, that's not at that level yet, why not? It'll just only help the game get better and spread farther. So anytime I get a chance to help out someone or, teach a little bit, I'm all for it.
Right. Now, of course, I have to bring up the one fight that always gets brought up with you was the O'Neill fight. Now, I go a little further. I actually have a clip. Why don't we watch the clip and then we can describe it? And the blur coming in the background. Well, that's Rich.
Absolutely pummeled by Randy Frazier, and with less than 1 second to go, that's going to be it, folks. Nick, John, just go to the locker room. All right, folks, this game is literally over. We're going to a break. We'll be back with the final moments from the All in just a moment.
That's something. You know, the funny thing is, the one thing that always I noticed is when you talk about the sway of the glass and watching the fans bang on seeing the glass going back and forth, because the fight went up into the stands, the fight went on the floor, it was everywhere. Now, a little bit of preface, that was the end of the 22-game win streak.
Yeah. We were sore losers. What can I say?
I don't think it was that. Godrich actually got into that, saying, JT and O'Neill got into it a little earlier in the game, and O'Neill got the worst of that one.
Well,
we trying to get a cheap shot in there and in the crease.
We had been battling Marty for a couple of years at that point. So Marty, and again, he ended up being a teammate later on. Love the way he plays when he's on my team. I'm not a big fan of the way he plays when he's not on my team. He is, but he liked to play that rough style, and I to this day that is the one I'm kind of ashamed of that hit. Like I thought he was closer to the boards. I thought I was just going to WWE him into the boards, but he was like 4 feet away from the boards, and that was a bad hit. And I don't know. I remember Johnny Meridian giving it to me, you could have really hurt someone. And I'm like, yeah, I said, but you know what? If I had the chance, I think I'd do it again. I think I would regret it more if I didn't do it, but I do feel bad about that hit. It was, that was not the what, lacrosse is, but I was just worked up. Our streak was over. I think Darius was pushing around behind the net. And when we came running on the floor, he just popped out and I just couldn't help myself. I was weak.
Now, we talk about Darius, we talk about you, but there was a third Kilgour that was also a very big force, your brother Travis. Let's talk a little bit about him, because he had a good little run there too.
Oh, no, Travis was a great player. He actually made that 1990 junior team that was so good. He made it as like a 15-year-old. And then, when he got in the league, Trav was, I think he was like 6'4", probably like 240, 245 when he came in. And, he was a big kid with soft hands. He was just really good around the crease.
Right.
Good goal scorer. And, we had some really talented teams. And, Trav was a really, really good player. And then, he bounced around a little bit. But every time he was, on a good team, Trav pulled his weight. He had a couple championships too. And, he was just the baby brother, right? And I was just so proud of him because he had a great career also. And sometimes I guess he said it in interviews before, sometimes it's a little tough having Darius and Rich Kilgour be your big brothers when you're playing lacrosse. So, but he took it like he took it like a champ. He was a great player in his own right. And, it was really special to win a Minnow Cup with both brothers and then win a NLL championship with both brothers. So it was, lacrosse has been a big part of our life, and to get to share, some stuff like that with, guys, brothers that you actually grew up with, it makes it really, really special.
Well, you guys being called the first family of lacrosse from the res, I think is very fitting.
Yeah, I don't know about that. There's been great families before us. We just had a bigger stage and, probably got our name called a little bit more out, but there were some great players and families before us. There's going to be some great ones after. I mean, now the Thompsons, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, I'm sure there's going to be another set of brothers that come up and do something really special, and we'll be talking about them. So it's, it's that circle of life stuff. Larry Bird says it best. Hey, man, there's going to be other players, and it's just, appreciate how good they are.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, let's talk a little bit about your coaching. How did you get involved originally into coaching when you finished playing?
I had, I always wanted to be a coach. I think when you're a captain, you're part of like a assistant to the coach or whatever, what I mean? And so I had always thought about coaching after, and there was, had a lot of coaches in my career. I always used to think what I liked about what they did, what I didn't like, and how I would do it if I had my chance. And like I said, just being so involved in lacrosse, and my dad was a coach when I was younger, and I had some really good coaches. Scott Nelson at Nazareth College and Field, he taught me a lot about time management and having a plan, and then just taking bits and parts from all the coaches I had over my that I liked, or sometimes they did stuff I didn't like, so I tried to make sure I didn't do that. So
right, sure.
It was something I planned on kind of doing, and then I got the coaching job at NCCC, the community college right down the road here. And then after that, Darius asked me to come back to the Bandits, so away I went.
Right. Now, your time at Niagara County, that kind of wrapped into the Iroquois Nationals as well. Now, I always bring it up. Are we finally through this political nonsense with you can't go. Yep, come, no, you can't go. Now that we're, Darius brought up a good point, is that by calling it Iroquois, you kind of alienate all the different tribes and things like that. At least now with Haudenosaunee, more of an umbrella to keep everybody unified. You think that
Yeah,
helps?
and I mean, because lacrosse is mostly played in the Northeast here, you know what I mean? But they are getting going out in like Minnesota, Texas. There's they are getting lacrosse all over. So why not be inclusive of everybody in the entire, all the natives? So I kind of like the name change. I didn't like the logo change. I like the old headdress thing, but I hope they can get over this stuff. I mean, we're a sovereign country. They have their own passports, so I don't see what the problem is. I mean, I know it's more political than that and way above my pay grade, but I don't see why they got to play this game every couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, just recognize it or don't recognize it. Figure out what has to be done so they can be recognized to go play in these world tournaments. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
But I get it. If they admit that they did something to the natives, they're going to get sued. I don't know how the politics are played. Don't care. Just leave the sports alone.
Let them play.
Yep, let them play.
Yep.
And again, they're not doing anything illegal. They're not. They are sovereign countries. So I don't see why they shouldn't be able to travel in just like every other sovereign country in the world.
Absolutely. My last question about coaching for you is your approach. Is your approach to coaching different from how you played, or is it more of on the level of same idea, same mentality?
Yeah, I always just try to, even as a player, to be level-headed. I mean, you can see I didn't always accomplish that when I hit Marty, but I try to be level-headed, not too high, not too low. That plays over. Let's move on and learn from it, and then move on to the next one. Just like cornerbacks in football, you got to have a short memory when you're a defenseman.
Sure.
So yeah, and then I just brought that kind of the same thing. And if I had to have a harsh word with someone, not harsh, but light a fire under someone's behind, then I would do that too. Players respond to different things, and sometimes guys respond to being called out. Some other guys don't respond to that. So you kind of have to. I learned that as a captain too. You can't just cookie cut and do the same thing to everyone. You have to take their personality and their stuff into account when you try to say something to them. So as a coach, I try to do the same thing. Just make everyone buy in, be a good teammate. And, again, if you make 3 bad plays in a row, guess what? Coach has got to say something to you. You know what I mean? If you make 3 good plays in a row, I'm going to say something to you too. So, again, not too high, not too low. Yeah, they just scored, but now what are we going to do next? Okay, we got a goal. No, what's next? What's next? That's all I do as a coach. Let's start thinking what's going to happen next.
Right. JT, we know what a great player he was. Talk about JT, the coach.
Oh, he's the same thing. I mean, he's really level-headed. He, he doesn't give these big fiery speeches. Here's your job. Do it. We're very talented, so believe me, you can come out of lineup really quick. And you know what I mean? JT is just good, and he's a teacher, right? So he's good at getting his point across, and he's just like he is as a player. He doesn't, give you like too much fiery stuff, but when he talks, people listen. And, that's a mark of a great coach. And look at the guy. He's got the last 2 NLLs and last 2 Man Cups. So he's doing something right.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw it over to these guys if they have any questions. Mike, what do you think?
No, take a prime Rich Kilgour and put him in today's game. Do you fare better, worse, or the same as a player?
I would like to say probably the same. I mean, I don't want to say that these guys are slow, and I still think, in my own mind anyway, and I get greater every year I'm retired. I get a little bit better. So
good answer.
I think I could play, in this era. Would I have the same success? Who knows? But I know I could play in this era, and being a 2-way player, my whole career, I think I could, how we were talking about Dane and them getting up the floor, I could bring something like that. In my younger days when I was, young bucks, I still liked running around a lot. So I think I could play in this era. Like I said, I would never doubt my talent. Let's see. Well, I'll say that.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Sean, you got any questions?
Yeah, you talked about kind of passing on your knowledge to other players. Is there maybe one piece of advice that you would give to maybe a young lacrosse player kind of looking to move up the ranks?
Just put in the work. I mean, everyone thinks, those guys are so great on Saturday night. They don't see the treadmill Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the weight room Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So there's a lot of work to be done if you want to play at that level. And you got to put in the work. You know what I mean? If you can have all the talent in the world, and if you don't work, it's just not going to work. So again, that would be my key advice to anyone growing up and wanting to get to the next level of lacrosse that they want to get to. Put in the work.
Absolutely. One of the biggest compliments I think is ever given to you guys was Cody Jamieson, and he had said that you and Darius were the reasons he got into lacrosse and pushed so hard. Now, coming from Cody, that's something.
Yeah, it's funny because Cody's such a great player, and just to think that maybe he went and watched me and Darius play and thought of doing something more. That's very humbling. Let's put it that way. But that's you kind of say that to the players once a year too. Like, people are watching you, man, and there's some little kid out there that might want to be the next Steve Friolo, the next whoever. So act like it. You know what I mean? Respect the game. And just go out there and play, be a good teammate. And again, just respect the game. Play as hard as you can, as long as you can, and shake hands at the end. And, that's another way I try to do. So worked out pretty good.
I think so, yeah. One final thing. Do we expect to see the Kilgours back in the NLL coaching?
I have no idea. I haven't put my name out there. I really did need a break because I did that since I was 22. All the way up to whatever 45, 40, you know what I mean? It was more than half my life I was doing stuff with the Bandits. So I wasn't happy about it when I got let go, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad. And, the COVID stuff came. So there was a couple of years off of not doing anything that, summertime, nothing. So Dewey gave me the call, and it was, I just wanted to try it out, see how it felt. And who knows, maybe I'll start putting my name out there, but no one's called me, and I haven't called no one. So
right.
I don't think I'll be back anytime soon. And Darius the same way. I think he just I think he would rather be like a GM or something. Now I'm not sure if he'd want to coach anymore, but like
I think
I said,
those
I don't know.
opportunities are coming because I think expansion's on the horizon.
Yeah, and you never know. You know what I mean? Someone gives me a call and it's the right fit. Maybe I would do something again. But like right now, I'm having fun with the family. I just I got a 2-year-old grandson. I spend a lot of time with him, so I get to start experiencing some of the stuff, life stuff that I kind of missed out on here and there playing so much lacrosse. So right now, I'm happy, and I'll stick with that for right now.
Oh, that's great. Actually, I do have one more thing. Is the training camps are coming up, and like last year and the year before, we're going to see probably 35 guys on the rosters going into training camp. And I would say that 85 to 90% of those are NLL bona fide players. So there's going to be a number of guys that should be in the NLL who aren't. Do we see expansion coming soon? And if that's the case, we may be seeing you guys back in GMs or in front office roles.
Yeah, it could be. And, again, lacrosse took off so big there in the, right around the mid 80s and took off, and now there's so much talent around right now, and I really hope there can be expansion and hopefully do it in the right way, because like you said, there is a lot of talent that could be our NLL players, but they with only 12 teams now, or I don't know what they're down
14.
to, but you know what I mean. Every time a team goes away, that's 20 jobs down the pipe. So, and that cuts the bottom 20 guys right out of the league, and it makes all the other teams. I mean, it's going to be really tough this year, but at the same time, there is enough talent to probably stock 3-4 more teams, and hopefully they can find the right fit somewhere and get them in the seats and see what happens.
Awesome. Listen, Rich, I want to thank you for taking your Sunday morning and talking with us and talking lacrosse and, going down memory lane as well as current stuff. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you in person or doing these things.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gary. And I told you all the time, I love talking lacrosse. You can give me a call anytime, man. I didn't even touch on all the stories I have. So, again, thank you guys, and thanks to the other guys. And it was a better way to spend my Sunday morning than sitting on the couch.
I appreciate that, and we will definitely take you up on that because I definitely want to get into more of the stories and things like that. My MO has always been when doing interviews is anybody can look up stats. It's when you guys eventually go. The stories go too. So if I can do my part and get these stories out there, that they're there for posterity.
Yeah, it's great that you guys do this stuff. And, just like you said, I used to hear stories from Derek Keenan and Kevin Alexander and, that. So it is kind of a tradition. You just got to pass along. And, because again, the lacrosse players are such characters too. I mean, there are so many great stories. And it's, like you said, it's good to get these things down on some film or tape, whatever you want to call it now, and other people can see this stuff and hear the stories of what went on back in the old Wild West in those days.
Absolutely. Thanks again, and we'll be talking to you soon. Have a great fall. If you wind up coming into Canada the next day or two, have a great Thanksgiving with us.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Gary.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Rich. That was Rich Kilgour, Hall of Famer, Buffalo Bandits, Six Nation Chiefs, player, coach. What a great guy, eh?
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's the guy. If you meet up with him in an arena, in the first 5 minutes, it'll be like you've known him your whole life. And he's just that personable of a guy and knowledgeable. And boy, oh boy, he's true about that. The stories, when we talk about some of the other stuff from yesteryear and things like that, is just a lot of fun. Darius is also another one that's exactly like that. And, I'm hoping I should be able to get Darius on in the next week or two also to, talk a little bit more about Mill, talk a little bit more about Buffalo Bandits lacrosse, as well as Haudenosaunee, because it was great to run into him at the Worlds also and talk for a couple of minutes before games. Okay, guys. Kufla. Let's get on to the Canadian universities just briefly. They had a slower week, if you will, this week. There only was 5 games in the docket. There's 1 game today, and we'll take a look at that in the up-to-date standings, and we'll get into a little bit of NLL just after that. Toronto played Western, and they say they played Western. Western is a force, and it was a 21-5 drubbing in favor of Western. This is going to be a team that's going to be reckoned with come Begataway weekend, with no exceptions. Just an absolute slobber knocker that way. Trent faced Queens, and Trent has also been a powerhouse. Now, Queens really gave a good showing. In fact, they outshot Trent 23-22 in that game. They lost 10-9. Trent was just able to slide by in overtime. So look out for Queens. They're making an up-and-coming run because Trent, they're 8-1. So this is a good Queens team at 4-4 that hasn't played up to potential until now. Nipissing and Guelph met up on Friday, and Guelph took them to the woodshed. The 8-0 Guelph Griffins won 19-4 over the Nipissing Lakers. This was an ugly kind of a game. The first half it was 11-3. The third quarter alone was 7-0 for Guelph, and mercifully they took their foot off the gas. It was 1-1 in the fourth. So look out for Guelph, also another force in the Kufla. McMaster and Laurentian met up. Now we know Laurentian's had a rough time. McMaster beat them 11-1. Laurentian is still looking for their first win of the year. And that brings us over to Brock versus Laurier. And this was a heck of a game. 7-6 in favor of Brock. 5-3 Brock Badgers over the 2-6 Laurier Golden Hawks. Laurier gave them everything they could handle and then some. In fact, Laurier was up 3-0 after 1 and 5-2 at the half. And it took a strong third to get them back in the game. And it was Brock winning in overtime to take this game. One last one from yesterday, and that was Guelph and Toronto. And Guelph laid the smack down on the Varsity Blues 15-7. Again, Guelph being 8-0, they are a force in this league. One game on the docket today. Laurier plays Laurentian at 1 o'clock over at Alumni Field. And if you have an opportunity, please go and have a look. Looking at the standings in the East, Guelph is 8-0 and at a plus 35 goal differential. Western is second at 7-1 with a plus 39 goal differential. Brock sitting at third at 5-3, +3. McMaster is at 4-5, a -8 goal differential. Nipissing is I'm sorry, I'm in the West. My mistake. Let's go again. Guelph with a +77, and Western with a +76, and Brock with a +16. Nipissing sitting at 4-5, Toronto 3-6, Laurier 2-6, and Laurentian having a rough time this year. 0-7 with a -106 goal differential. Let's go to the East, where McGill is 8-0, +35. Trent 8-1, +39. Queens again with a good showing, 4-4 now at a +3. Carleton at 3-6. Bishops at 1-7. Ottawa at 1-7. Upcoming this coming week. We have Guelph facing McMaster on Wednesday. Thursday is Ottawa versus Queens. Friday is McGill versus Queens. And then Saturday we have a slew of games. 4 games happening. Nipissing versus Laurentian, McGill versus Trent, Bishops versus Ottawa, Brock versus Western. And Sunday there's a few games as well. A much busier week. Brock versus Laurier, Bishops versus Carleton, Western versus Guelph, and Laurentian versus Toronto. Definitely heating up over there in the Canadian University field. Just before we head into the NLL, let's pause for a little bit of station identification. That's a little catchy thing, isn't it? Also, now that we're going back into the NLL season, we can bring back our ball delivery. Absolutely. All right. We go over to the NLL, and not huge moves, guys, but we did have some moves during the week. The biggest thing I think with Philadelphia is the signing of Scott Dominey and Liam Patton to 2-year agreements. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, most of the guys that they've drafted or picked up from the Panther City dispersal draft are already signed to the team. So I think that's going to be definitely one of the more competitive training camps going on this year.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of moving parts.
Oh, yes. And I think we were only seeing the scratch of it because there's so many players in these things that, the pickup of the scraps are going to be golden nuggets, I think. And we were starting to see that. We see Ottawa release Colton Lidstone, and right away, Colton Lidstone is over with Vancouver. That's big. I think that he can really help the Warriors. Again, getting stronger and stronger. I still think the Warriors are the ones in the West, even though Saskatchewan is going to make a lot of noise. The Old West, sorry. The Wild West. Formerly known as...
What was once the West.
Yeah, what was once the West. Not so much the West anymore, was one. But the other thing that stood out to me was Buffalo traded Justin Robinson to Ottawa, which also explains a few things. But right away, Tate Katoni is now a Buffalo Bandit. And the left side needed something, and they got themselves a hell of a player. They got themselves a guy who can dig, a guy who doesn't mind going into dirty areas, a guy who has a hell of a shot, a guy who won't mind mixing it up. Not the biggest guy on the floor, but you can't measure the heart by the size of the body. What do you think about this one? Mike, what do you think?
You had to figure someone on that left side was getting traded out of Philly. They got to make room for Brennan O'Neill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, if we're gonna for lack of a better word, project or do a depth chart on the left side, you're expecting it's going to be Mitch Jones, Blaze Reardon, Holden Katoni, and now Brendan O'Neill.
Right.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, though, I was looking at the Buffalo roster, and really they had nothing on the left. They're very heavy right. Emerson Clark, and Burn and Kluche. That's about really it.
Yeah. It sounds like, Tate's game should fit right in with the Bandits being able to play that gritty, get down the dirty areas, crash in the net. I mean, you look like a guy like Natico, maybe not the biggest guy, but he was not afraid to mix it up.
Right. Because also Buffalo doesn't have Brandon Robinson either anymore. So I'm thinking right into that slot he goes. I don't think that there's much to say about that. I don't think he has to worry about sitting in a press box. I think he'll make an immediate impact. And I think the Buffalo Bandits, Bandit Land, will love him and love his game. It's tailor-made for that scenario, really.
Yep.
In Toronto, Toronto signed Zach Kearney to a 2-year agreement, put him on the active roster from the injury reserve. He was on the practice squad to start last year, but he worked his way and worked his butt off and was a big part going down the stretch in there. And him and Josh Dahlwick, I think, are both going to really make big statements this year. Dahlwick, from what I saw in the Worlds, he's gained probably 10, 15 pounds of muscle. And his shot was always good, and his IQ was good. Now he's putting all the pieces together. From what I saw in the Worlds, he really is going to be something if he can stay healthy. So a lot of upside there. Cam Milligan. We talked about him when he was on Panther City. Him and Dean Farrell were the ones who started turning that franchise around. He's been bounced around a little bit as a journeyman the last couple of years. He was last year with the Toronto Rock on the practice squad. Never really able to crack the lineup. Well, you take a look at that lineup. It was, that's a very difficult one to do. And then you're taking a look at the draft picks ahead of you and all the other things. So he goes to Halifax. Now, we're talking a little bit off air. This is probably the best place for him because Halifax is in a rebuild, and there are definitely spots for his talent because he's got a heck of a shot and he's a really crisp passer. So what do we think here? Mike, what do you think?
I almost see it. He can have a similar breakout to what Aaron Woods had, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's some revamping going on. I think the left side's going to be a little more settled now. They don't have Banesh, they don't have Eric Fennell, but you still have Dawson Theed, you've got Cody Jamieson, and I think it's a good foundation for them to build around. And
right.
I think Clark Peterson's going to be more involved now with Shanks, leaving for Saskatchewan.
Right.
I feel like things are going to just open up a bit more in that offense, and it's not just going to be kind of the same 2 or 3 guys that they're leaning on or trusting with the ball in hand.
Right. I think it's going to be interesting. I think one of the things that helped Milligan out a lot was his play with Peterborough in the summer. And he was to the forefront of another team that was rebuilding that became really a force as we went down the stretch in the summer, even into the playoffs. Again, as Rich Kilgour mentioned, taking the first 2 from 6 Nations, Milligan was a big part of those victories. So, again, showcasing his talent that, he gets an opportunity to get back in the league as a starter.
Yeah, and he gets an opportunity because, like you said, Mike, like losing Fennell, Banesh, those are big shoes to fill. So at least bringing in a veteran like Cam Milligan and giving him a chance to fight for a roster spot doesn't hurt one bit.
Right. Now we still have a few names that are out on the free agent list, but most of them have been gobbled up now. of note. Training camps open. Well, some of the early stuff has already started, but training camps open up in a couple of weeks, and we have preseason games coming up in about 3 weeks. Really, this isn't far off. And then bang, we are into the season. Early predictions. What are we looking at? I want to start with you, Shawn.
Oh, I still have a hard time betting against the Rock. Again, putting on those green glasses, I really like what the Rush are building up to right now. I really do like what they're building. Again, you got a lot of talent. I see kind of the Rock and a few other teams like Calgary, San Diego, where they've got an older roster. It'll be interesting to see whether they can hold up into that 18-game season. Again, Buffalo Bandits, you can't, count out either. I mean, again, they're aging as well. So this same scenario, can they hold up that 18-game season? I after last year, I really like Albany. I like what they're building over there. I think they've got a really great chance.
I'm myself looking at an Albany Vancouver final, to tell you the truth.
Vancouver.
As much as I have my Rock shades on, I tell you, I am honestly thinking that, especially with Williams coming into the lineup now, and a few other pieces coming into Albany, they already had 98% of the tools there, as we saw, and experience now. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I won't argue about Albany. Again, Dyson Williams, you're going to have Eric Fennell now competing for a spot on the left-hand side. So you're definitely going to see a shift. It's not going to be this heavy reliance on Simmons and Kurtz. So I think that will actually be helpful to them. It won't. People are going to be looking for, hey, are they going to have a sophomore slump? And I don't see that happening, because they know they're going to have weapons on the other side in Williams and Fennell, Ethan Walker, of course. So, and again, let's not forget, they got a guy who's been waiting 2 years to come in on the defensive side in Will Johansson. That's going to be just a huge addition.
Right under the radar, eh?
Yeah.
With a couple of years off.
Yeah. And honestly, I've been saying it. I've been saying it since these guys got drafted when they were in New England. But the plan was always to build that core around, that defensive core around Doug Jamieson and net, Colton Watkinson and Nick Tchaikovsky. And they are still with the team. They are rock solid. They have another stud on defense in Patrick Kostiuk that they were able to get, at the end of the first round a couple of years ago. So I really think, they have that they'll be consistent for the entire duration of the extension that they've signed with the arena. So
right. I think so too. And again, being a media guy for the ALL, with all the guys who aren't going to make the team, it's going to be exciting to get out to ALL games, because I think this is going to probably be the best one yet. And talking with a couple of guys running the junior ALL, they're expanding also. So this is going to be an exciting time for junior ALL of up and comers. So there's a lot in the pool of up and comers that are going to be really forces down the road. So again, when we talk about the expansion thing, and we talked about it with Rich, and we talk about it pretty much weekly. It failed in Panther City. That wasn't because of play, because it was a damn good team, as you can see by them being snapped up all over the league. What we need is in the right markets and hit the ground running with the right management. And guys like Rich Kilgour, Darius Kilgour, some of the other guys we talked about over the years, I'm sure even a Johnny Meridian would be happy to come in and be in the front office of getting things moving. Maybe not sticking around for years and years, but to get things moving in the right direction in the right markets, and know what it takes to get an expansion team off the ground, and give another 20 to 40 players home. Because if we're going to expand and it's going to be this, you got a couple of years before the Olympics hit, right? That's when the grand explosion hits. We want to make sure that everything is smooth, ready, done. And, we don't want to have 200 players that should be playing going, I'll go into my profession, when we're trying to make this full time. This should be the profession. Rabel and them have got it down pat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask this, kind of a two-part question. Let's just say you're Winnipeg or Edmonton or St. Louis, Baltimore. You got an expansion franchise. Do you go after Richard Darris Kilgour, or do you maybe go after Bob Hamley, who's now available and has just spent the last few years, building what would have been, let's face it, what would have been a contender? Because, we talked about that one game in Vegas that got away from them in the final seconds, and they win that game, and their playoff position is different, and maybe the outcome of last season is different. And I'm not just I feel like I'm not just waxing hypothetical here. Like, if they're in a different position, that last year's playoffs could have wound up entirely upside down.
Absolutely. Shawn, why don't we start with you?
They could have been as high as the number 3 seed.
I was going to say, I don't think you can count it out. Even when we were talking to Rich there, I mean, it's a question mark whether they are more willing to go back behind the bench or just, sit in the front office position. So I don't think you have to discount it. I think it's something you definitely have to look at for sure.
I think there's a number of up-and-comers for coaches, too, that haven't had a crack at it in the NLL, and I think that this would be a perfect opportunity. But to me, kind of evade the question a bit, because either is a good choice. Any one of the three is a good choice.
Yeah.
But to have that problem of having that qualified of people for your front office to be your GMs right away should tell you that we need to put more teams in here. And in, again, the right locales. We're not going to try obscurities, right? We're not going to try and put it in Trenton, New Jersey. PBLA couldn't draw anybody in there. We're not going to try it for now. In the States, again, St. Louis would be a good one. Baltimore's had a few cracks at this one, and it hasn't really worked. So I don't know if that is the right answer there. But somewhere near to Colorado, I would look at just to get them a rivalry of something a little bit closer than trying to get across to the Calgarys or to the Saskatchewans.
I'm always wondering, Gary, like, what about back in Washington State again, like a Seattle, or even looking again at like an Everett, like, yeah. So I mean, those are WHL towns. They've got hockey. They gather decent crowds.
I think somewhere in Seattle would work.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the hockey arena there, because it's a lot of pressure to put 18,000 people in a building. But there's a number of other ones that are smaller. But let's keep it closer to the, again, the Fort Worth problem was that it wasn't in Dallas, in my eyes, where you have a bigger demographic to draw from, and you have more of a small town niche of what they're into, and you're kind of stuck to that. If you have a bigger city, yes, even on the outskirts of that city, you still have that city to draw from, and all the people that make up that kind of city and the different demographics. And I think that the way lacrosse is right now, they still need to draw that much. It's not hockey, where everybody knows it and everybody knows of it. Whereas a lot of people are still trying to, what is this? How do we do this? And, So if we can get a bigger, first off, a bigger population pool, and secondly, more demographic, we can do that and then get experienced marketing people to explain it and get it in the schools and have these players that are going to be on the teams get kind of what Saskatchewan did, kind of what Vegas did. Get these guys right away on the ground and running. Halifax did that, and get the community involved. And sure enough, as the communities got involved, so that their fan bases grow. And you take a look, Halifax sells out now. Saskatchewan always, as winners, were able to sell out that place or not be within 1,000 of selling out that place.
Yeah, and I'll actually throw out a couple other locations on the West Coast. I mean, I know we've talked about the possibility of Portland, because it had worked previously there.
Yeah.
How about Oakland? This is a city that's lost the Warriors from the NBA. They've lost the Raiders in the NFL, and now they've lost the A's, in a span of 5-7 years, not even.
Yeah.
Nice rivalry with San Diego right away too.
I wanted to address too. Sorry, the comment from Eduardo there too about marketing. Like I think that's something that Vegas did really great right off the hop too. Was just in your face everywhere you couldn't go around the corner without hearing about the Desert Dogs.
Desert Dogs, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they also treat the opposing fans. I saw when the Rock went in there.
Oh yeah.
Pictures on the floor.
Like
royalty. You're not being drudged around. Like if you're going into Buffalo wearing a Rock jersey and you take your life in your hands. You are treated with the utmost respect. San Diego treated us all very, very nicely. And people are getting to learn the game through the years now. They knew field and now they know box.
Yeah, and if the league doesn't like the idea of Oakland, my other suggestion would be, where's Oakland going before they get to Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
Sacramento. You already have an NBA arena there.
Yep. It brings a question of Miami for that one then too. Again, a little bit more of a main city as opposed to Orlando that has to compete with all the other little ventures in there. But Miami's got the heat and the Prudential Arena, which is would work very well for Lacrosse.
Yeah, if you can make that partnership work. Again, I don't know one of Eduardo's comments with the competition. As long as you're kind of partnershiping with, the Heat, the Dolphins, you've got the University of Miami, college ball. You got a lot to compete with. I mean, personally, why it worked in Saskatchewan is we have one other professional sports team in this province. We were clamoring for more.
Right.
We didn't have that. They didn't have to compete with a whole
Which again brings up
5-6
Laval.
professional teams, right?
Right. Which again brings up Laval and brings up Quebec City because not a whole lot of things going on there. Laval is close enough to Montreal, but not Montreal. But close enough that Quebec City would be interested in being little brother.
Yeah.
And Quebec, since they don't have a hockey team and really don't have much in the way of sports there, I think that would be a perfect fit over there. And again, works great with a Halifax rivalry.
Yep.
And goes back to my thing about Winnipeg, right? They got their football team, they've got the Jets, and that's about all they got.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that they could just
that's partly why I think Sacramento maybe, if they're going to look at that, take advantage while the A's are actually playing in the city, and
that's why I say I think it can work in those other markets as long as you've got that partnership, right? That you're not competing with each other. You're working together to make sure you're all prospering.
I'm also, selfishly looking at Oshawa again, which is about 40 minutes away from where I am in Toronto here to the east. But remember, Hamilton is 45 minutes to an hour the other way west. So the gap is, close to 2 hours of a difference. Well, Buffalo is that distance. So that would work as well. And again, It brings in the Peterborough crowd, which is about maybe a 30-minute drive. It brings in the Coburg crowd, which is about a 15, 20-minute drive. It brings in the Whitby crowd, which is about a 10-minute drive. It brings in the Oshawa crowd, which is there. It brings in the Scarborough crowd, which is about a 20-minute drive. It brings in the East Toronto ones that lost when Toronto went west, and they're not going to go and spend that time going an hour and a bit to Hamilton, about a 20-minute drive, not even. So how much of a fan base would be there? There's a 10,000-seat arena right there where the Oshawa Generals play, and pretty state-of-the-art. And I think that would work just fine, thank you.
Yeah, and if they're selling it out, it's no different than Halifax selling out.
Exactly.
So,
And it wouldn't step on anybody's toes. Eduardo was talking about all the things that are there in Miami not to go there. I get it. But most of those things aren't playing in the winter. Just saying. But there are other places. I just thought I'd think of a place in the States. I'm not keen on Baltimore just because they've been tried so many times and failed. And there's other things going on there. Granted, no hockey. But we've seen it go in and out of there a few times.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I just brought up the WHL. Like, I know this is not hockey, but we've seen it again here in Saskatchewan where you can partner up with the WHL. You got a decent-sized arena, good arenas. And it just seems to work.
Yeah. There's a lot of markets where I'm thinking that you need to get into a market, at least off the start, for the next 2 teams that no box, that we don't have to educate.
Yeah.
Right? Then we can start worrying about educating, and that's where the Unboxed program comes in. Right? While we're putting 2 more teams in areas of no known box lacrosse, the Unboxed program can go to areas of not known or little known box lacrosse and educate, so that when we do put a team there, they are already educated, there already is a fan base, there already is school programs, and you hit the ground running and marketing.
And it's a good it's good to take temperature, right? Like, you put
Yeah,
that in. Are they
before you-
even willing to learn about box if they just don't care?
Right. If you can't get 3,000 to 4,000 season tickets sold, and then have the rest of your 8,000 to 10,000 seat arena to come in on walk-ups, Now, granted, you don't need to have a sellout every single night to be successful, but if you're keeping your costs mindful and your marketing and building, and again, the difference between the Mill League and selling the party, and now you market to the kids, and the here with the OLA, and get the young kids excited about it, that they bring mom, dad, and uncle, bring the grandparents, bring the brothers and the sisters, sell 5, 8 tickets instead of 1 ticket. That's how you sustain it, and get them young. Get the 5-year-olds who are playing peanut and tyke, and get them in there excited, and then have the family come there and they grow up through it. And eventually, as I watch Josh Dawick and his brothers as young little kids being excited there, sitting across from me, and watching them all go up and play junior, playing college, now playing NLL, and watching that progression and watching them develop into professionals. Because off floor is as important as on floor if you want to stay in this league. So there's a lot of little variables in there, but I think it's time. And I really do believe that the league needs to look quickly at getting up to 16 teams for now. And then we can move from there and let the Unboxed program go from there. Birmingham, I would like. Ohio, somewhere in there, maybe a Cleveland, maybe outside of Cleveland, maybe a Cincinnati, maybe that would work. But again, my theory is that I expect a known box destination, somewhere where U.S. box law is already in there, and they have a clue that we don't have to educate right off the hop. Down the road, a couple of years, yes, I think a number of those places would be good spots. And if they do want to get to 30 teams eventually, they're going to have to start looking at these places. But again, if the Unbox program does what the Unbox program is supposed to do, and the league does more than just have one game in Laval, and starts getting this thing churning, and that's the big thing, is the league needs to get this thing churning if they want to make it viable and have it be a tool in the toolbox to get this thing expanding, because the only way you're going to get moving is growth, right? Otherwise, you're stagnant, stale air, right? We've got to churn it and move it forward. Churn it, move. What we did for the last 30 years. Thoughts, Shawn?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't keep going back to the Rush kind of model.
Well,
but I mean, it worked, right?
A real good blueprint for this.
And I mean, you saw what they did last year. They played a preseason game in Moose Jaw. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up playing a preseason game in Regina at some point. They're not just keeping it in Saskatoon. They're spreading it out and kind of growing their fan base into other areas in the province.
Heck, throw one in Lethbridge, Alberta, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
In my eyes, there's a good little base there.
Yeah, like why doesn't Calgary play some preseason games, in Red Deer, or like you said, Lethbridge, some of the smaller communities that can bring in that fan base.
But again, Eduardo, you're missing my point. The point is that Dayton has to know something about box for this to work right off the hop. We can't just put a team in there that knows nothing of box and expect people just to come trampling down the doors in the box office. That's been my point. Down the road, yes, it's another good destination, I think. But for the time being, where the league needs growth now for this ESPN thing to be a little bit more to the forefront and maybe off of Plus and onto network more, now we need to get the crowds in there.
And I always feel like it has to be a bigger market just for that TV deal.
Not a Buffalo or a Toronto market per se,
yeah,
but a bigger market to draw
bigger,
from.
like a St. Louis. Like I could see that, or like a bigger city.
Because we could probably get the Blues management to be part of it.
Yeah, because TV's more likely to look at that when it's a bigger market, right? And then maybe down the road, we could look at like an Oshawa or even a Winnipeg.
Remember the Sakavitz MO originally when he was talking about expansion. NBR NHL affiliate with their own arena, so they don't have to be number 4 on the docket for dates. Yeah. The league needs to stay true to this. Now, they didn't with Panther City. And, now we talk about it, RIP. Right? The places where they did do this, it works. And to have that little caveat of, it's always easy to, for the NHL teams to go, well, part of your season ticket program is to have tickets for this. So at a minimal cost, because it doesn't cost very much for season tickets.
And that's why it will work in those where there's competition, as long as you have that partnership, right? Where everyone prospers. You can give ticket packages that involve both, for instance, the Calgary Flames tickets and Roughneck tickets in one package. Right. If you're Miami Heat tickets along with the Lacrosse package, or both.
And again, you're spending $35,000 on tickets for your hockey or basketball team, and I'm just picking a number out of the air, and to go and say we're now spending $36,500, $36,500, another $1,500 or another $1,000 per se on it. I really don't think that's one that you're going to be up in arms and say, well, I don't want my tickets anymore. No. I don't think that's going to be a big deal.
You might get a handful, but that's about it. Like, it's not going to make or break you.
No, and there's enough people that will take those ones from you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And even if they don't use these tickets, you can always donate it to kids and put those programs up. I watched that yesterday with the Marlies game when watching the AHL, is if you can't use your tickets, these groups can, and please donate to here. So
yeah, and you know what? That's another thing. Like I work with the Moose Jaw Warriors at the WHL, and they got a thing called Heroes in the Community, where businesses go out and buy tickets that go to school kids.
Mhm.
so that they can attend the games. You could easily use that model anywhere to help grow the game as well.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we leave it there for this week? Just a reminder to everybody that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on Thread, we are on YouTube, as well as we are still on eopsports.com/lacrosse for all articles and archived things. You can find our show library on YouTube, as well as a number of other things, retro games especially, like we were talking with Rich. If you want to see Rich and some of his former teammates and a lot of the guys you're seeing behind the benches play in their heyday, get onto our YouTube page, tell other people about it. Let's subscribe to it. Let's get that thing built. You know, it wasn't built in a day, but let's get it moving so we can use it as, again, for more tools in your pocket that you can explain this game and we can grow this thing together, because this is all about hashtag grow the game. And we all got to do our part to get this game out there that it becomes number 4. And I think we're right on the verge of doing something very, very big. We're into last words. Mike, let's start with you this week. Last words.
Just looking forward to, any other signings, transactions, moves in advance of training camp, and curious to see who's going to make it, not make it.
Yeah.
Once training camp begins,
right,
there will be some surprises this year.
Shawn, last words to you.
I'll keep it short. We're looking forward to training camp. I mean, let's go. Let's get some lacrosse going.
Absolutely. I personally, I loved having Rich. I want to thank him again for having him on the program. Again, we're going to have Theris on there. I'm going to try and get Tom Bolesky from Cuffalo on there to talk a little bit about that closer to Piscataway weekend. And it's going to be exciting. And we got a lot of things upcoming. And, I had a great interview the other day with Eric Turner, now of the Calgary Roughnecks. And that's also archived on my YouTube page at G Groob. So if you want to take a look at that one. And he gets into a lot of the stuff and playing with Colorado coming out of COVID and all the work and work ethic. Again, what Rich talked about. If you have the talent and not the work skill, put in the work. Put in the work. I knew when I started seeing his videos after he got cut from Las Vegas that he was coming back to the NLL, because he was practicing and working out with a fury. He was coming. And another one of our friends, Jake Morris, is hanging out with Eric. So I'm hoping that some of the skill set there is rubbing off on Jake, because Jake's making big strides also, probably back in the ALL again this year. Spent time over in the WLA last season. So NLL's on the horizon for him as well. And I can't wait for that one. That would be fantastic. Jake's a good friend, and I wish him all the best, and he has put in the work. So let's see if this time around is the one that pushes him over the line there, because you got our support, and let's see what goes on. Should be some interesting announcements from us in the next couple of weeks too, so stick around for that. And the future looks very, very bright. So hang out with us, and we're going all the way from the best in the business. I want to thank these guys again. Outlooks have come out and started already. Shawn had the Saskatchewan. Mike's got Albany, is it, Mike?
Yeah, that'll be later next week.
And I believe I have Ottawa coming up at the end of Tuesday, I think it is for me. Yep. So looking forward to getting those going and giving you all a little glimpse into what to expect come training camp and come the season. And until then, for Shawn Slaght over in Moose Jaw, for Muffler Mike over in Connecticut, I'm Gary Groob in Toronto. And I wish you the best of weeks. Remember, keep your stick in your hand. If you're Canadian, happy Thanksgiving. If you're not Canadian, I know you have a day off anyways. Wish a happy Thanksgiving to a Canadian. Anyways, until next week when we're back, it's Sunday at 9 p.m. Thank you all for hanging out with Breakfast with the Boys. Appreciate it. And until next week, keep your stick in your hands. Have a great week, everybody.